Principles Show daily podcast by and for you.
All right, let's jump into another deep dive. Today, we're looking at Saudi Arabia.
Sounds interesting.
They're doing something pretty unique to attract some of the best healthcare workers from, well, all over the world.
Okay, I'm all ears.
Think of it like a Saudi green card, though it's officially called premium residency.
And this is specifically for healthcare professionals.
Exactly. We found this article on the BRICS joint website, and they've already given out over 2,600 of these green cards.
Wow, 2,600, that's a lot.
Yeah, and to people from 56 countries, not just their region, this is a global thing, and there are some pretty great benefits.
Global, huh? That's interesting, especially coming from Saudi Arabia. What's the bigger picture here?
Well, it ties into their Vision 2030 plan.
Oh, right. Vision 2030. That's their big plan to transform the country, move away from oil dependence, all of that.
Yeah, and a huge part of that is improving their healthcare system. They want to make it world-class.
I see. So it's not just about attracting talent. It's about building a better future for Saudi Arabia.
Exactly. This green card program is part of a much bigger puzzle.
And a key piece of Vision 2030 is their health sector transformation program. This program focuses on making their healthcare more efficient and patient-centered.
And also, technologically advanced, they're really pushing for modernization in their healthcare system. So bringing in talent from all over with this green card is a big part of achieving that.
Right, it makes a lot of sense. They want the best of the best to help them achieve their goals.
Absolutely. So what about those perks? What makes this green card so special that it's drawing in people from all over?
Well, imagine a visa that lets you stay in Saudi Arabia with no restrictions, and you can renew it after 5 years.
Sounds pretty good so far.
But there's more. You can bring your family, parents, spouse, kids under 25, and you can buy property, change jobs, even start your own business.
Wow. They really thought of everything.
They even speed you through immigration at the airport. It's a pretty sweet deal.
Yeah, no kidding. They are really pulling out all the stops. But what does this actually mean for people thinking about making the move? The article mentions a couple of healthcare professionals who already got the green card.
Oh yeah, Ganesh Sivasankara and Dr. Mohammed Asfar.
Right. What can we learn from their experiences?
Their stories are really insightful. For instance, Ganesh Sivasankara is a consultant anesthesiologist, and he mentioned how easy it is to travel with the green card.
Ah, so visiting family or going on trips without a bunch of visa issues, that's got to be a big plus for anyone considering moving there.
Definitely. It removes a major barrier for those who might have strong ties to their home countries.
Makes sense. Now, what about Dr. Asfar? What was his experience like working and living in Saudi Arabia with this green card?
His story is really interesting. He's a consultant medical oncologist who's worked in Pakistan, the UK, and now Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
And get this, he really loves his experience in Saudi Arabia.
Really? He's worked in some highly regarded healthcare systems.
Exactly. And he says the facilities in Saudi Arabia are right up there with Western standards. Plus, he found tons of opportunities for professional development.
Hold on. He prefers Saudi Arabia to the UK. That's saying something. What makes it so much better for him there?
Well, when he talks about Western-level facilities, it really shows how much Saudi Arabia has invested in modernizing their healthcare system. They're clearly trying to compete with and maybe even surpass those well-established systems. And it seems they're doing a pretty good job.
That's pretty amazing. So it's not just about drawing talent in, it's about giving them the space and resources to grow once they're there.
And the green card plays a big part in that.
Yeah.
It makes it much easier to settle down long-term and really build a life in Saudi Arabia. He's not just there for the job, he's there for the lifestyle, the opportunity.
Right, it's a whole package deal. So we've got Saudi Arabia making these big moves, and it seems like it's working. They're attracting top talent, and people seem happy to be there. But what does all of this mean for the future of healthcare, not just in Saudi Arabia, but globally?
That's the big question, right? Well, for starters, this program could help them tackle the global issue of healthcare worker shortages.
Yeah, that's a big one, especially in specialized fields.
Exactly. By bringing in experienced professionals from around the world, they can improve the quality of care for their citizens.
Okay, that makes sense. But there have to be bigger implications, right? This has to have some ripple effects beyond Saudi Arabia.
Oh, absolutely. Think about the economic impact. These professionals bring new ideas, create jobs, boost economic activity. It's a win-win for Saudi Arabia.
Right, a skilled workforce is a huge asset for any country.
But think about it more globally. What happens if Saudi Arabia manages to create a healthcare system that rivals those in the West? What does that mean for other countries that are also vying for top healthcare talent?
Ooh, you're right. It could lead to some serious competition. We might see a brain drain from those well-established systems as people are lured by these new opportunities.
Exactly. And that's where things get really interesting. Other countries might need to step up their game, offer better benefits, streamline their immigration processes. We could see a whole new kind of talent war.
Like a global talent marketplace. Everyone trying to offer the best package to attract the best people. That's fascinating. But before we get too far ahead of ourselves, let's hear from our listeners. What are your thoughts on this Saudi Green Card initiative? Does it surprise you? Does it make you think about your own career choices differently? We want to hear from you.
We're all about exploring different perspectives here, so jump into the conversation. Share your thoughts with us.
Yeah, it's a pretty big shift in the global talent landscape. And as we dig deeper, I think it's really helpful to go back to those personal stories we talked about earlier. They offer a really human perspective on what all this means for the people involved. Absolutely. It's easy to get caught up in the big picture stuff, but ultimately it's about individual lives and careers. So let's revisit those stories, Ganesh Sivasankara and Dr. Mohammed Asfar. What stood out to you about their experiences in the context of this global talent shift?
Let's start with Ganesh Sivasankara, the consultant anesthesiologist. He talked about how much easier the green card has made travel for him. He can visit family back in India or travel for work without all the visa headaches.
Yeah, that freedom to move around is huge for anyone thinking about relocating, especially if they want to stay connected to their home country.
Exactly. It's like having the best of both worlds, global career opportunities, and maintaining those personal connections.
It's a pretty appealing combination. Now, what about Dr. Asfar? His story was pretty eye-opening.
Yeah, his perspective is really interesting. He's a consultant medical oncologist who's worked in Pakistan, the UK, and now Saudi Arabia. And he had some pretty surprising things to say about working in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, he actually prefers it to the UK. That really challenges the assumptions a lot of people might have. What aspects of his experience there made it stand out?
He specifically mentioned that Saudi Arabia has Western-level facilities. They've really invested in modern medical technology and infrastructure. It seems they're serious about being on par with, or even better than, those established healthcare systems.
So it's not just about the green card itself, it's about what that green card represents. A real commitment to building a world-class healthcare system that can draw in top talent from around the world.
And that's a huge part of why Dr. Asfar seems so happy there. It's not just about the job, it's about being part of something bigger, something that's pushing boundaries.
It's like they're building this whole ecosystem to support professional growth and well-being. We have to acknowledge the potential challenges, right? Bringing in people from all over, managing different cultures, making sure these professionals have a smooth transition. It's a lot to handle.
You're right. There's always a flip side. And we can't forget about the potential for pushback from local healthcare workers. Some might feel threatened by this influx of foreign talent.
It's a valid concern. Managing those dynamics, making sure everyone feels valued and included is going to be crucial.
Absolutely. Transparency and communication are key. Being upfront about the goals of the program, addressing concerns head-on, and finding ways for local and international professionals to work together effectively can go a long way.
It's about creating a win-win where everyone benefits from this exchange of knowledge and experience. Now, we keep talking about Vision 2030, this grand plan for Saudi Arabia, but it's much bigger than healthcare, right?
Oh yeah, Vision 2030 is their roadmap to the future. It's about diversifying their economy, moving away from oil dependence, improving the quality of life for their citizens.
So attracting all this talent to their healthcare system is just one piece of a much bigger strategy. It's fascinating to see how they're using talent as a driving force for change.
And it raises some really interesting questions for other countries. Can this Saudi green card model work in other sectors? What can we learn from their approach?
It's almost like a test case, a blueprint for national development in a globalized world. What do you see as the most significant takeaway from all of this?
For me, it's their ambition. They're not afraid to go big. They're reimagining their country, their role in the world. And attracting global talent is central to that. It's a bold move, and it'll be interesting to see where it takes them.
Definitely a story worth following. So to recap, we dove into the personal experiences of Ganesh Sivasankara and Dr. Mohammed Asfar, highlighting the factors driving talent to Saudi Arabia.
We also looked at Vision 2030 and how this initiative fits into their big plans. And we talked about the challenges of integrating a diverse workforce. It's a complex and multifaceted story for sure.
Absolutely. In the last part of our deep dive, we'll wrap things up by looking at the key takeaways and what all of this means for the future of healthcare and global talent flows. And we're back for the final part of our deep dive into Saudi Arabia's strategy for attracting top global healthcare talent. We've covered a lot, from the Green Card program itself to their ambitious Vision 2030. So what are the big takeaways here?
Well, one thing that really stands out is how Saudi Arabia is going beyond just attracting talent. They're creating a whole environment where those skilled professionals can thrive and actually contribute to their vision for the future.
Yeah, they're not just saying come work here, they're saying come be a part of something big. And I think those personal stories, like Ganesh Sivasankara and Dr. Mohammed Asfar, really drive that point home.
Totally. Hearing their experiences adds a whole new dimension to this whole thing. It's not just about numbers and policies, it's about real people making real-life choices.
Right. It's one thing to talk about policy, but it's another to see how it plays out in people's lives. And I think Ganesh Sivasankara's story, with how easy it is to travel with the green card, really speaks to what professionals are looking for today.
Yeah, it's not just about finding a good job anymore. It's about finding that balance between global opportunities and staying connected to your roots.
Exactly. It's a globalized world, but people still value their personal connections. And then there's Dr. Asfar choosing to work in Saudi Arabia over the UK. It's a pretty powerful statement about how perceptions are changing.
Yeah, his experience really challenges those assumptions about where the best healthcare opportunities are. It seems like Saudi Arabia is becoming a serious contender on the global stage.
And it all comes down to their strategy. Those attractive incentives, the green card being a big one, and the genuine effort they're putting into building a top-notch healthcare system.
It's not just about throwing money at the problem. It's about creating a culture of excellence that draws people in. And I think that's a big part of what makes this whole initiative so interesting.
They're playing the long game, creating a system that supports both career growth and well-being. But of course, we can't ignore the potential challenges. Integrating a diverse workforce, managing cultural differences, making sure everyone feels included, it's a lot to navigate.
Absolutely. It's a delicate balancing act. But it seems like they're going into this with their eyes open, which is a good sign.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they tackle those challenges. But even beyond that, this whole thing has implications far beyond healthcare. Other countries might start looking at this model, wondering if they can replicate it in other sectors.
It's a blueprint for talent acquisition and development on a national scale. And as the competition for global talent heats up, we might see more countries trying to adapt this approach.
It's a fascinating glimpse into the future of work and global competition. But for you, our listener, we want to leave you with this. Could the Saudi green card concept be a game changer for other industries too? Technology, engineering, maybe even the arts. As this global talent race intensifies, who knows what kind of creative solutions we'll see. And that's a wrap on our deep dive. Thanks for joining us.